Prince Harry is now in real danger of being kicked out of the United States. When he and Meghan Markle moved to the US, Harry had to fill in a visa that asked, have you ever taken drugs? Because you can actually get banned if you say yes. Now, a district court judge in Washington has asked for Harry's visa application, and the Biden administration says it's now handed it over. This is in a case brought by the Heritage Foundation, which says the law must apply to celebrities as well as Joe Everybody, because the thing here is that Harry actually said in his memoirs, Spare, that he'd taken all sorts of drugs. So, whoa. Joining me now is Sean Spicer, the first White House spokesman for the US President, Donald Trump. Sean Spicer, thank you so much for joining us. Is this case with Prince Harry getting much attention in the United States?
You know, to be honest with you, Andrew, it's not. You piqued my interest with this now. I feel like I'm actually now intrigued by so much of this subject that, you know, thankfully you're bringing the news to the U.S.
I wonder whether it's because perhaps America's used to celebrities getting a free pass.
You know, it's funny, though. It's a great question. When you brought this up in your show, I didn't even realize it was a question that got asked. I sort of am intrigued where it goes from here. But it's also interesting in terms of what's going on in our country. We've got an open southern border where drugs are coming in. We've got Kamala Harris and Joe Biden decriminalizing marijuana and talking about how they want to expunge the records of so many. So it's interesting. On the one hand, we're asking foreigners to come in. At the other time, the Democratic Party in this country is doing everything they can to destigmatize it. And in the case of the southern border, allow drugs to come in.
Yep. I wonder where this is going to go. But talking about the celebrities, Donald Trump, I mean, this is just astonishing. It must be some sort of record, Sean. Donald Trump, in one fundraising dinner with the rich, has just raised an amazing $77 million Australian, or just over 50 million US for his election campaign. What does that tell you?
Well, the first thing it tells me is no matter whether it's US or Australian, it's well beyond anything I'll ever have. So that's the first thing. No matter what currency, it's well beyond anything I'll ever see. That's number one. But the thing that was so interesting to me, you talk about what we watch and what we don't. In the U.S., I don't know, what was it, 10 days ago? Every major media outlet was going nuts about the fact that President Biden and two other ex-presidents, Obama and Clinton, joined with a bunch of holiday celebrities at Radio City Music Hall in downtown New York City and raised $26 million. And it was talked about what a big record it was. Stephen Colbert from our late night programs was there. Some of the Hollywood leftists came out and did a podcast from there. And everybody was celebrating what a great haul this was for Obama. 3 presidents, a bunch of Hollywood leftists, and $26 million at one night in New York City. Donald Trump breaks every record of every party in one night, raises over $50 million in one event at one person's house. And the next thing you know, it was like, well, here's what's wrong with this. And here it was a bunch of rich people. And I'm like, wait a second. It was rich people in New York City. When it was rich Hollywood elites and progressives supporting Joe Biden with 2 ex-presidents, it was such a great thing to be celebrated. When Donald Trump eclipsed it by basically double, here's all the problems with that. But what it does show is that everybody's getting on board. Right. We've talked about all these factions and the different people that were funding some of the primary challenges to Donald Trump, whether it's Nikki Haley or Ron DeSantis. The big guys all got together in one night and said, we're united behind Donald Trump and we're going to move forward to win. That just shows you take that event combined with the major haul that Trump had with the RNC in the month of March. And it shows you that low dollars and small dollars on the Republican conservative side are united behind him going into the general election. And that when it really comes down to it, money's not going to be a problem.
But Sean, let's talk about these headline, fundraising events obscures a really, really fascinating change in conservative parties in the West, especially in the United States, but also here in Australia with our Liberal Party and our National Party. These conservative parties, Republicans your way, Liberals here, used to be seen as parties of the rich. But in the United States, for instance, the Republican Party has changed that dramatically, and especially with Donald Trump, of all things, which might seem counterintuitive given his own wealth. About 50 years ago, with Jimmy Carter becoming president, here's the vote in the Republican vote in red. Yes, the Republicans did get most of the support from the rich, just 38% from the poorest voters. But that has steadily changed over the years, and now polls show Donald Trump actually beating Joe Biden in support among the very poorest voters. What's going on here?
Yeah, the realignment, it's so great that you brought this up. You think about this. The Democratic Party, which built itself as being the party of the working poor, of the working men and women, of the blue collar in the United States, manufacturing jobs, other blue collar jobs, suddenly is the party of the rich elite. It's the Hollywoods. It's the tech venture capitalists and the corporate elites, right? It's the working men and women that Donald Trump is now championing, and the parties have literally done a flip. And so if when you look at this, and it's amazing how quick the Democrats abandoned the working men and women. They literally are now the party of the rich, leftist, elite progressives, government leaders and academia leaders and corporate leaders and Hollywood leaders and industry titans. All the people with the money and the power are behind the Democratic Party. It's the men and women who are working day in and day out that are behind the Republican Party and Donald Trump right now. You take an issue like trade, for example. Donald Trump put it on its head and said he's going to champion policies that support the men and women. And it's funny, you talk about like even unions. It's the union leadership that's supporting the Democrats, the union workers, the men and women who are going to work every day and becoming the backbone of America, the people who Joe Biden claims to champion, are supporting the Republican Party and Donald Trump. Because the thing that's so interesting about Trump is that, yes, he's rich, but he's worked around these people as a hotelier, as a real estate investor that had, construction workers that he was around, as a restaurant owner. He sees them every day. I've walked hotels with the guy. He stops, he shakes hands, he talks to them, he engages with them. This is to him his, we talk about the rallies. His real focus group when I was with him on the 2016 campaign was when he walked through a room and shook the hands and engaged with the workers, the waiters, the waitresses, the service staff. And he would talk about issues that were affecting them and how he could champion their causes. So the funny part about this is that if you think about who's leading the efforts in the United States in their respective parties, Trump is a guy who has spent his lifetime around the bedrock of the American worker. Joe Biden has been in elected office his whole life. He's had a staff that's been paid for by the government surround him. He's never worked an honest day in his life when it comes to running a business or putting a paycheck out. He doesn't know what that's like. So he doesn't know how to even champion it if he wanted to. Donald Trump knows what it's like to sign the front and the back of a paycheck.
Sean Spicer, thank you so much indeed for your time.
Always great to be with you, Andrew. Thank you.